Hello and welcome back to part 2 of our Photoshop tutorial. So today we're going to be talking about this layers panel and everything over here. And this is something I did not learn early on and I wish I had learned it sooner. So this button right here creates a new layer. This button deletes a layer. Luckily it asks you every single time. Now, if I have a bunch of layers, and let's say these are all a part of my character, what I can do is I can click on Shift on the top one, and then click this bottom layer and click that folder, and that makes them into a group. This is really helpful when you have characters that are a lot of layers, because I will put each character in a group, and that just really helps organization. Now, this is different layers you can put on to change colors and filters and level adjustments. This is something I get into at the very end of an illustration, but it's not something you will necessarily use a bunch. This is for making masks, which we will not use much of. And then this one is for special effects, which again, we will not use really at all for illustrating. So a lot of these you can ignore. Now, looking at these top little ones, these are really fun. Okay, so let's create a new layer. And let's make a circle. And we'll color this guy in. Okay, so now we have this circle. This circle is on a layer above our background. So we never want to draw directly on to the background. We want to try and separate as much as we can, because it is easier to go back and fix it. I had this sort of mentality when I started off that I wanted everything to be on one layer, and it is just not easy to work that way. We are digitally illustrating. Let's take advantage of the digital aspect. So this layer right here is my white background. So I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to come over to our circle, which is just the circle layer. So what I'm going to do is click on this little checkerboard pattern. What this does is it creates a lock right here, and this lock is invisible. What that then allows me to do is grab one of my colors and come over here and draw within this circle only. So it locks everything else out, and I cannot go outside of this circle. Now, if I turn this off, I can draw all over it. But with it on, I only stay within those lines that I've already created. Pretty cool, and it's really handy when you get into shading, because you can start off with a circle and then you can do some nice shading on the bottom and then work on some shading on the top, and just really start to get this nice, really pretty shape going. And that helps with bringing your characters to life. It's fun. Cool. Okay, and then the only other thing you will use over here is this lock, which changes it to this white lock, and that means you can't do anything to this layer. This is really helpful if you have perfected this layer and you don't want anything else to change on it. I will lock it. That way I don't accidentally come around and make a little scribble over here and not realize that. And as I'm working on my illustrations later, I will be so many brush strokes ahead that I cannot click Control Z, which is undo, and erase that. So when I am done, I do like to lock it down. That way it cannot be edited unless I take that lock back off. So over here, you can also change the opacity of your layers. So if you wanted to draw with full opacity, over here, I can change it to where I can make things a little bit more transparent, which I do like to use. And then this right here where it says normal and up here where it says normal, these are our blend modes, which change how something looks and blends with the layers underneath it. So these are really fun when you're getting into shadows and lights. You'll definitely play with some of these, and they're a lot of fun. But for now, we're going to make sure it's on normal, and we're going to make sure our brush is on normal. We can brush with different types of brushes for different types of effects, but I get in trouble a lot if that's not on normal, and then I can change it over here later. So instead of changing my brush mode, I can change the entire layer mode to be a mode for blending, and I don't have to worry about changing my brush. But again, I know this might be really confusing right now. We'll get into some real life examples of when we will use that later. Now over here, back on this tools menu, this is our move tool, so we can move this all around. Really simple. This is going to be if we want to select something and then move it to a different area. You may have seen me use that, or the lasso tool, to move things around if I'm only moving a section of it. So I can draw around it with my lasso and then move it out if I wanted something different. This is your magic selection, which we won't really use much, so I'm going to skip that for now. This is a crop button, which is always fun. Your ink dropper over here will help you pick the exact color. That way, if you forget, you can grab it from somewhere else in your illustration. We, of course, have our brush. This is our pencil, which I do not use. We won't use these brushes much. This is a cologne stamp tool, which again, we won't really use much. But basically, I can make a clone, sorry, not a perfume, of my drawing. So that may be useful if you're doing a lot of bushes or things of that sort. Otherwise, we won't really use that. This is your eraser tool, which is your best friend. And what's really exciting about your eraser tool is you can actually change it just like your brushes. So if you're working with a textured brush, you can change your eraser to also be textured. That way you're not having these weird lines of different types of texture. This is your fill tool, which is just like any other paint bucket tool. A blur tool, which we won't use much. A smudge tool, which we won't use much. This is for text, which again, this is just for illustrated tutorials, so we won't use that. A pen tool, which is another way you can draw, and we may get into that later. This is a shape tool, if you want very clear shapes. And that's essentially it. A lot of these tools as well can be used for photo editing, which is something different. But so we're only using a small functionality of Photoshop for illustrating. So let's end this tutorial here. And next time we will pick up with drawing a simple character and moving through those processes and seeing how we use everything we've just learned in this crash course and go from there. I promise it does get easier the more you use Photoshop, but it is definitely a learning process. So next time we are going to draw a character together. Yay, drawing! So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And I will see you all next time. Go over and check out BethanyStahl.com/classes. Here is my beautiful creation of all the information I have provided so far, organized into different sections so you can follow along, or if you're looking for help in one specific area, you can access all the resources I have built so far on each area. And I am building up my resources every week for you guys, so I am trying to build a really helpful helping hand for all of you. A lot of it is free and some of it is exclusive for my self-pub Patreon members, which is the best way to get in contact with me if you have any additional questions or need additional help. So if you are really trying to get into contact with me, Patreon would be the best way. Good luck and happy publishing.